Do you know what you're good at? Do you have a clear, sound understanding of the things that make you stand out and unique? I ask this question because I don't think a lot of people really do. Those things that we do get caught or lost because of the fact that we do them so natural. So being a strengths coach, and a lot of people, they're not quite sure what that means. But strengths coach, when you hear that, usually people go to the connotation of the word strength, and so they assume that I help people get stronger physically, like lifting weights and so forth. Naturally, I'm a bigger guy, so that kind of makes sense. However, strengths coach comes from a tool that Gallup, a research company, founded and created. And it talks about basically it's an assessment that gives us some insight into our strongest elements of our personality and how they show up. But regardless of whether you use the strengths assessment or other type of personality test, I think it's important to note that not very many people know what they're really good at. And this is why that's so important. So, in my experience growing up, I share this with you just to see if there's anything that resonates. Not that my life is anything super special, but growing up, like most kids, you just kind of go with the flow. You go through the education system. They teach you how to be well-rounded. And I really clung onto, I don't even know if that's a proper way of saying that, but I really gravitated towards sports because I was a pretty athletic kid. I was usually bigger, stronger, faster than most other kids. And so my sport of choice was basketball. And so playing basketball, I was pretty successful. Like my high school team, we went 75-3 in the years that I was there. We only lost 3 games. One went undefeated, won a state championship, was nationally ranked. Had a lot of great experiences playing basketball against the likes of people like Kevin Garnett, Jason Kidd, Jerry Stackhouse, some of the older guys. There's some Hall of Famers in there for sure. But when I got done playing college ball, and at that point in time I was a father, had 2 kids already, was married, and then all of a sudden basketball came to an end. And in life, right, there was a research back in 2012 from in a study that talked about how people change careers 7 times before the age of 28 years old. Not jobs 7 times, but careers 7 times. And so society teaches us how to conform. It teaches us how to fit in, right? We all have to take the same classes in school, and the ones that get the good grades, those people excel or whatever. And if you work hard enough, you can get good grades, and then you can be, educationally successful. But the reality of it is it never taught us how to see what makes us stand out. What are my unique traits? So I don't follow religion anymore. I'm more spiritually minded. And within the spiritual community, everyone talks about how we're all the same. We're all connected. And I do believe that we all come from the same source. And I do believe that we all have the same unlimited potential within us. But I firmly believe, and in my experience of being in people management for almost 20 years now, and interacting with people on a daily basis, I firmly believe that we all have a very unique set of skills or a gift. Steve Harvey is very passionate about this topic, and I really like his stuff because it resonates a lot with my life. And he says, we all have a gift. We've all been given a gift. And the way he defines a gift is it's something that you do really well that requires the least amount of effort from your behalf. And I do believe that. I believe that we all have unique traits. So back to me, getting done playing basketball, being done with school and college, and now I'm in the workplace saying, now what do I do? Because my whole identity up to that point was tied into basketball. yeah, I was a play. My position was a point guard. I knew how to read the offenses and defenses. I had great anticipation skills. I could really assist and help people get to their shots, get to their spots the best way possible. I had success doing that. Obviously, I got my education paid for. Was able to travel around the country growing up to play basketball. But how did that translate? How did that translate into now? The first 20 years of my life are done and over with, and now here I am, a father, a husband, responsible for this family. And how's that translate into really making a living? And I've seen a lot of that with a lot of my teammates. Very few athletes, I think, go into college really understanding what life is going to look like beyond the sport. And it's because our whole life we've trained to do one specific thing. And again, within my household, I never had those conversations with my dad of like, okay, well, what's beyond basketball? My whole mindset, and he could have easily talked to me about it, but my whole mindset really truly was, I'm going to be a professional basketball player. And then, when I was in that spot, here I'm 22-year-old husband, father, and I was like, well, I'll go and teach and I'll coach. And I really enjoyed the teaching aspect of it. And I really wanted to be a high school coach. And then I realized the travesty of what high school teachers actually make. And I was like, there's no way I can live off of that income. Like, that's not the lifestyle that I would like to choose at this juncture in my life, which is, I'll get to that on another topic, because I probably should have pursued that route. But instead, what did I do? I was like, well, I don't really know what I'm good at, so I'm going to follow in footsteps of people that I know. So I got into marketing and advertising because that's what my dad did. And he helped me get into the industry. Was I good at that? Not really. There's elements and things that I think I learned, and it was a great experience, but on the flip side, there wasn't anything that I was passionate about. So then from there, naturally, because of my personality, everyone's like, get into sales. So then I got into sales, did direct sales, did phone sales, found success in certain arenas and not so much in others. And I really just did this whole trial and error thing. Went to one company and would do that, and there are things that I liked in that area, in that position, but then there's a lot of other things that I didn't like, things that I wasn't very good at. Then I moved to a different company. So I probably followed suit to that study of changing careers 8 times, by the time I was 28 years old. Different types of sales, got into some leadership positions. And the point of me sharing this is that I think what I've seen in my experience is that a lot of people just do this trial and error thing, and they go into this mode of, I will just land and find something one day that fits me. And I don't think that really is or happens very often. And here's why I say that. So a research company did a study of all the top organizations globally. And they wanted to see how the employee engagement is. And the latest numbers and results were that over 70% of employees globally are unsatisfied and unhappy in their position. They're not engaged. Over 70%. So 7 out of 10 people don't like what they do. And there's probably a lot of truth to that. I had a lot of conversations. Being in people management, you'd have one-on-one conversations with all your employees on a consistent basis. And I would say, yeah, the people that I worked with, a lot of them did the job. They did the job not because of purpose. They did the job because of the paycheck and what that paycheck provided for them. A lot of them weren't happy at what they were doing. And most of them didn't feel that they were doing something that was conducive to their strengths. In fact, Gallup has done research, a lot of research into this topic, and they've come up with the number that basically 2 out of 10 people, just shy of 20%, 19% of people feel that they go to work on a daily basis and they play to their strengths. Now, I believe that there's a couple things that attribute to that. One is, and first and foremost, I don't think a lot of people really know what their strengths are, their talents. I think that's something that when you ask somebody, hey, tell me about who you are, how do we usually answer that question? Well, the question is usually answered by, these are the jobs that I've had, or these are the hobbies that I like to do, or these are my roles that I'm playing. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, whatever it is that you have, that you talk about the roles that you play in life, but you don't really know and talk about who you are as an individual, because I don't think we really know how to find that out. Because in society and in school, all of us, we have to take math. Well, some people are just better at math than others. But how does that translate into my strengths versus not? Everyone has to take history. Everyone has to take English. And then from a societal perspective, we're always geared to look at the things that we don't do well. Right? If your child, or if you came home when you had a report card, let's say you had 4 A's, 2 B pluses, a C and an F, which grades get the most attention? Well, the C and the F, right? And so when you have that attention and focus on the areas that you're not good at, then all of a sudden, where does your energy go? Well, your energy then goes to the C and the F, and it's like, okay, the F, let's say I get an A in English and an F in science. Well, okay, now I have to do all this extra work. Now I have to study, I have to do tutoring, I have to do all these extra things that takes from my time and energy and effort. And probably the best case scenario from that F would be a C. And the C grade is just average. For me, a lot of times it was a D plus, just pass it and get out of the class. But imagine if you took that same energy and effort and put it into one of those A's, that English that you got an A plus, that it was easy for you, it didn't require a lot of attention, effort. What could have happened? What could have came about because of that? Maybe you would have really dove into a passion of writing novels, or becoming an editor of the school newspaper that then translated into, writing articles, creating an online forum. It could have led to winning national competitions for writing. It could have led to scholarship opportunities and eventually a career. And you could have been passionately doing something that you were naturally good at that didn't require a ton of effort. That's the thing, is a lot of times when we focus on areas that we're not that good at, we spend so much energy and time trying to get better, and then we still only do a C. In the middle of my career, I've been pretty successful at sales, but I got to a point where I was kind of burned out, and it was like, man, I'm grinding. Yeah, I'm making money, but man, I do not feel fulfilled. There's got to be something else. So then, what do I look for? Right, being in an egocentric perspective, looking at the outside to define my inside, I'm looking for some sort of definition, some sort of help to help me find my purpose in life. And through conversations, all of a sudden, someone was talking to, my wife at the time, and I was married, and they're talking to her and how her husband, this lady's husband, was going to go back to school to be a nurse anesthetist. And I didn't even know what that was. And some of you may not know what that is, but a nurse anesthetist is basically like a nurse practitioner, but for anesthesiologist. And they're talking about how, that's a big deal. They're hiring a ton of nurse anesthetists in the country. There's a lot of job security there because the medical industry is not going anywhere. A lot of hospitals are hiring more nurse anesthetists than they are anesthesiologists because they don't cost as much money. And then from a education perspective, you just get your bachelor's degree, You work 1 year in a trauma center, and then you only have to do a 2 year master's degree, and then you're graduated and get into this new career. So I went and did all this research because in my mind I thought, well, if I could become an expert at something, then, I'd make consistently really good money. I would have a specific title and expertise that would then give me job satisfaction and guarantees for the rest of my life, right? That was the thought process. Security, safety, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Well, so as I'm doing this, I start registering for school and classes. Now, granted, mind you, I did not like science when I was younger. I didn't. Those are the areas in the classes that I probably got the lowest grades in. But in my mind, here I am thinking, well, I'm an adult, right? I can push through it. I'm more mature now. I know how to study. I've done hard things. I'm older. I'm going to do this stuff. And so I started school. So I got back into school to go get a nursing, a bachelor's degree in nursing. So then I can get back into my, get into the master's degree for the nurse anesthetist program. And one day I'm at lunch with my brother and he asked me, and so I kind of explained my whole plan. I'd done a ton of research, knew exactly how much nurse anesthetists made, what type of schools, what schools were the best schools, what type of companies, what type of career paths you can go with it. I had all the research, had all the answers. Like I had a detailed plan laid out. And a lot of times people think that if you have a plan and you can envision yourself doing it, then you're going to be successful, right? That's what you hear all the motivational videos on YouTube. That's what a lot of, people that mentor and try to help people in their careers, that's what they tell them. Hey, you can be anything you want. You can do anything you want to do. If you work hard enough, create a plan and visualize yourself doing it. So I bought into that. And I said, okay, I'm going to create a plan. I'm going to do all the research. I'd even done things like I went and got my CNA certification, and then up at the local university hospital, where a lot of the CNAs for the certification program that I went to, they wanted to get into the hospital desperately bad to work there, but they had been applying there for years, could never get in. Well, within a matter of a few months, I made connections, went and I had 3 job offers once I got my CNA certification to go work up at the University of Utah Hospital. Something that these CNAs were trying to do for years, and I did in a matter of a couple months. So I had a plan, right? I was like, okay, this is a good sign. All these things are kind of coming into play. And so I went to lunch with my brother, and I'm explaining him my entire plan, and here's the timeline. And so within 5 years, I'll be graduated with a master's degree in nurse anesthetist, and I'll be making a minimum of $180,000 a year for the rest of my career. And he just listened. He looked at me and said, Jeremy, what are you doing? And I looked at him baffled and bewildered and said, what do you mean? I just told you exactly what I'm doing. And he says, no. He's like, stop for a second. He goes, I've known you my entire life. And my question to you is that when have you ever liked science? And so naturally, right, I'm going to defend that and be like, well, I didn't like it when I was younger and I was just immature and I didn't really care about school. I cared about was basketball and girls and stuff like that. So now that I'm older, I'm responsible and I know how to be an adult and do hard things. I'm going to be able to do it. He said, okay. I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to, that you can't do anything, but I'm just telling you that doesn't seem like it fits you as a person. And sure enough, that's first semester that I went back into taking biology, just entry, biology 101, chemistry 101, anatomy 101, all the science classes that I needed to take to get into this nurse anesthetist program. I worked my ass off and got C's. I put more attention and focus on schooling and studying and homework and tutoring and all that kind of stuff, right? Because I'm an adult now, so that's what we do. I spent more time, effort, and energy into that and still got C's. And the nurse anesthetist program was so competitive that you had to be getting A's in order to even just be considered for the nurse anesthetist program. And here I was busting my ass and only getting C's. So have you been in this situation? Have you been into or gone into a job or a career that you thought was going to be great and you planned and you researched it, and then you get into it and you are working and busting your tail, and all of a sudden you're still not getting anywhere. You're still not getting the promotions. You're not getting recognized. Your results aren't that good. It's because a lot of times we have this tendency to go and focus on outside perspectives of saying, okay, if I can get this, if I can attain this title, this job, then for there I'll be fulfilled. And I know if I could just get the opportunity, then I'll be successful and I can do that. It doesn't work that way. At least in my experience. And the experiences of life that I've seen, I have not seen people be successful by doing that. Here's what I have found success in my own personal life, and here's what I've seen people who have been successful at. The people that are most successful are the people that understand what they're really good at. Gary Vee talks a lot about this. Gary Vee is a very high-level influencer, always on social media, is an entrepreneur that basically started out working for his parents' liquor store, then bought that, then now he buys and sells a lot of things online. Now he does a lot of digital marketing and so forth. So, I mean, he's a multi-millionaire, high-level influencer. And he talks about that he focuses on the things that he's really good at. The things that are his strengths, that's what he focuses on. And he doesn't pay attention to his weaknesses. He's aware of them, but he doesn't focus his mind to try to change and focus his energy on trying to offset those weak areas. He says, look, here's what I'm really good at, and that's where I spend all my time and energy. You look at Bill Gates and his experience, right? And what he focuses on. Has always been fascinated by numbers and by leadership in companies. I mean, sorry, that was Warren Buffett, but Bill Gates was always fascinated by information, technology. So understanding what you're really good at is one of the biggest and most important lessons and facets and works of our lives. Going back to that lunch conversation with my brother, he later posed a question to me and said, Jeremy, let me ask you something. He says, if you had a paycheck or a check that just came to your house every month, and that check would basically cover all of your expenses, not to where you're living lavishly, but you're living comfortably, that you can literally dictate with your time what you would do every day, what would you do? And at that point in time, I was still stuck in this logic of I have to find that position, I have to get that title, I have to get that certification. And I said, well, maybe if that's the case, then maybe I would go be like a doctor, or maybe I would just become an anesthesiologist. Because a nurse anesthetist makes $180,000 a year or $200,000 a year, and an anesthesiologist makes $750,000 a year. Again, thinking that the money is going to solve my problems and give me a life fulfilled. And he said, no, Jeremy, what would you choose to do with your time? You don't need to work. If you didn't need to work for money to get a paycheck, what would you choose to do with your time? And as I really sat and thought about that question, it really dawned on me that here I was pursuing and going after things that I had no business being in. There was no draw, there was no appetite, there was no affection for it. All I was looking for was some sort of title that gave me some prestige, another mask, another role for my ego that could be fulfilled. And I was looking for a certain paycheck because I thought that if I made a certain amount of money, then my life would be happy and fulfilled. And what I found through the course of my career is that a lot of us function that way. A lot of us just think, if I just can make a certain amount of money, then my life will be happy. But the reality, that's not the case. It's not. Like, that's why depression and anxiety are at all-time highs. More prescriptions are written for depression and anxiety and panic attacks and stress disorders. Why? Because we're focusing on this outside perspective to give us definition for our lives and who we really are. Where instead, education systems should be teaching us, look, this is what you do really well. And these are the things you don't do really well. So don't focus on those things. Focus on these that you have a natural appetite for, that you have a natural ability, that in turn allows you to give the maximum performance and outcome with the least amount of work. For me, when I was a basketball player, I loved to play. I loved to compete. Loved it. And so because I was good at competing, which is one of my strongest elements of my personality, because I loved to compete, and that I was that way since I was a little kid, and anyone who really knows me knows my personality, that there's certain things in my life that if you want to all of a sudden compete, all of a sudden I go to a different level of things. And so naturally, that's something that I have. That's one of my strengths, one of my talents. And so that served me really well in the athletic world. So I was successful there, but how does that translate into the real world? Well, it kind of makes sense why out of all the positions in my career, sales seemed to be something that I excelled at. But then as I eventually got up into leadership and then leading a team that had a performance base and then pushing the team. I remember when I first started working at eBay, we were in a team construct, and prior to me getting there, there's only been a team that would be the top team for 2 or 3 months. I held that title for 7 months as one of the top teams. And again, I don't take the claim for that, but I merely say that from a leadership perspective, my competition, that was something that I was really good at. I started to discover of how to leverage that into the workplace. That by doing so, my employees, they got higher bonuses because we were performing at the top. I got better bonuses and made more income. Which ultimately, I think when you really fully settle into what success isn't a certain dollar amount. I think we get stuck in fabricating this idea that, if I make a certain amount of money, then I'll be happy and I'll be successful. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money that are very unsuccessful because they're miserable. So, back to the original question that I have, do you know what you're really good at? Because you have certain things that you're really good at. There are things that you do naturally really well. And because you do them so well and they require such minimal effort, what usually happens is you discount those things as just, oh, that's just how I am. Not realizing that those little things that you do so easy and that other people come to you for, that rely on you for, those are your magic bullets. Those are your gifts. Those are your strengths. Those are your talents. The key is to understand and learn what those things are. And then how do they influence other people? So my challenge for you today, if anyone listening to this video, I want you to think about and write down maybe a list of the things that you do really, really well. And if you don't know what those things are, and you come to that staunch realization that, you know what, I have no idea what I'm really good at, then go and discover what those things are. Go and research. There's a lot of great tools and assessments out there that can help you with those things. But for you to know who you are and what you do really well is the most important tool that you could have in your tool bag for you to live a life that's fulfilled, that's filled with purpose. For you to accomplish your dreams, you need to understand what tools you have and which ones are the best ones to use. Because without that, you'll just wander aimlessly in this nonstop repetition cycle or repetitive cycle of trial and error, and still at the end of the day, be lost because you have no clue. So what are you specifically, you alone, You by yourself, what are you good at?